Hey guys, it's been one day since episode 5 of WandaVision came out. I cannot talk about this episode without going into spoilers, so I'm just going to cue the intro.
Is anyone there? Hi.
So I want to keep the ending till the ending, but it's the best part about this episode, kind of like all the build up towards the ending that we'll talk about later. These are just kind of things that I noticed throughout the episode that are just kind of like little tidbits, not really like, I don't really have any thoughts about them. Here's just a couple of things that I noticed. So, Wanda's children are aging on their own. Wanda is not doing this herself. And when she tried to make the kids go back to sleep, like with her magic, it didn't work. That led me to the conclusion of the kids aren't affected by Wanda's reality bending powers because maybe they do it themselves, maybe they don't. I'm not really sure. We don't have enough information to go on. And it seems like Wanda's grip on this reality that Darcy calls the hex is slipping because Agnes literally tells Vision and Wanda, should I do the scene again? Like as if it's a blooper or like an actor messed up on set or something, and it's really creepy, and Wanda and Vision are like, what are you saying? And she's like, do you want me to do it again? You see this throughout the episode where a lot of the characters are noticing, not just noticing, but like realizing that Wanda is in control, and they're kind of like accepted it. I'm talking about like the side characters, I say in quotation, the people in the town who are being kind of controlled by Wanda. Like, for example, the mailman later, he's like, don't worry, your mom will figure it out. Like, how do you know that? You're the mailman. You're not supposed to know Wanda that well. But literally everybody knows about her because she's in everybody's head, as we learn later. And because of this, Vision is starting to get an inkling of what's going on inside the hex. Like, as he says later in the episode, he doesn't remember anything before Westview, which is really scary because, I mean, like, if you don't remember anything before you died, that's just, like, really weird. Like, even in the intro for the episode, they show Vision as like a baby, and then him growing up and him being like a mathematician, but he doesn't remember any of that. Wanda's just making it up on the spot, I believe. And we find out later, I'm really glad that the episode is taking half of it in the sitcom and half of it outside of the sitcom, because like I said to you guys last week, I decided that I wouldn't review an episode if it was just purely sitcom, and this was not purely sitcom, which I'm really glad about. So now we understand the rules of the hex. If you go inside, you are reality warped to whatever decade the sitcom is in. For example, when Monica Rambeau went in, her clothes were reality warped into being like 50s, 60s, and eventually 70s, 80s clothes. 70s clothes. She was pushed out at the 70s period, because this episode was the 80s period. And so we learned that her outfit is made of like 70% Kevlar or something. So it's not that Wanda is making an illusion, it's Wanda is warping reality. And Darcy remarks that is a lot of power because it takes, I've taken physics, and just like physics 101 even, you don't need a degree to understand that the amount of energy that you need to warp matter because matter can't be destroyed or created, but it can be changed, because that's how you get solids, liquids, and gases. We're going to a science lecture, but just to explain real quick, ice can melt into water, and then if you boil the water, it can go into gas. The water didn't disappear, it's just changing forms, changing stages, changing reality. No, not really, but so when Monica Rambeau went into the hex with her Kevlar bulletproof vest, Wanda can't create or destroy that vest, but she can warp it into something else. I think that's the physics that they're going when they explain this part. That's my understanding of it. So as we're learning the rules, we're starting to understand the relationship between our three main characters outside of the hex, which are Darcy, Jimmy, and Monica. And we're slowly starting to understand their dynamic. Darcy is already a big fan of Monica, I'm guessing from the show, which is kind of cute. And Jimmy already met Monica. And so now they're all working together to figure this mystery out, basically. What I really like is the three I'm gonna call them the trio. The trio's contrast to the director and the other members of Sword. I remember in the last episode, in episode 4, the director, I can't remember his name, the director says himself that he's not equipped to run Sword. Like, he doesn't know what he needs to do to be as effective as he could be. And you can clearly see this. Like, when he arrives in episode 4, he like yells at Darcy to give him information, and she's just like, I don't know either. And he accepts the fact that things are out of his control. I'm guessing at this point. This is all conjecture, but you can clearly see the contrast when they're giving the briefing to everybody in episode 5. Jimmy gives a different briefing than the director. The director is like, she's a terrorist, she's dangerous, and we need to take her out as soon as possible. All because she was a radical who was radicalized when her building in Sokovia was destroyed by Stark Tech. And then Jimmy corrects him, and he's like, yeah, but she later became an Avenger after earning their trust, and she saved a lot of people. And then the director's like, yeah, but she killed a lot of people in Lagos too, and she also stormed into our facility to steal Dead Corpse Vision. So you can really see the contrast between the trio and the director, as also Monica starts fighting with the director himself about like if she's a threat or not. And Monica states that she's not a threat because she was in her head. We get a little bit of dialogue explaining what happened in Monica's head when she was thrown into the hex, and she said, all I felt was grief. And you see a glimpse of Wanda crying, and you see a glimpse of Monica realizing that her mother is dead. We're gonna put our tinfoil hats on and we're gonna theorize a little bit. I believe that everybody in Westview is going along kind of with the charade, like maybe Agnes more than most. I believe that Wanda connects with each and every one of them on some sort of level. Like, she connects to their grief and they understand that grief, and so they kind of like accept that the reality that they're in, kind of sort of, because when Vision talks to his friend, he takes him out and his friend starts freaking out, and he's like, your wife is evil and all that stuff. It's not really that they're accepting it, but I think they understand it. Agnes keeps talking about this husband that she has, that, oh, he's neglectful, oh, he's not there all the time, in the first 2 episodes at least. This person is never revealed. So what I'm guessing is that Agnes helps Wanda a lot more because maybe she lost somebody like Wanda did, and she wants to help her regain that loss. Even in episode 3, I believe Agnes is the one who's keeping everybody quiet and telling them not to like tell Vision what's going on, and she seems to be the one helping the most. And even Wanda doesn't even care anymore. She starts using her abilities in front of her, and Vision is starting to notice that Wanda really doesn't want to keep up the charade anymore. She's like in her happy place. She has her kids, she has her husband, she has a neighbor who always helps her when she needs help. The mantle is slipping. Vision is finding out what's happening, and Wanda is able to do what she's doing because she connects to everybody's grief. I don't know, it's a working theory, I'm probably wrong, but this is the impression that I'm getting from the show so far. The scene where Wanda like throws out the drone and she has her accent back when she leaves the hex, I thought that was just really badass. That's all I have to say about that. I've seen a lot of theories online saying that Agnes is the actual bad guy, but I don't think that's the case. I think Wanda, I don't think there's any like one bad person. I think Wanda just screwed up, and like Vision said, like she unconsciously did this at first, like subconsciously, and now she's controlling it a little bit better every time, and she's liking that this reality is the reality where Vision is alive, where she has kids, where she's able to live normally. Here are some reasons why I think Agnes isn't the bad guy. 1, like I said earlier, she's always helping Wanda when she needs help. 2, she's surprised that Wanda can't bring back things from the dead. Like, she didn't know that Wanda couldn't do that. So, like, if you're the villain and if you don't know that Wanda can't bring things back from the dead, then how are you supposed to be the overarching mastermind? Like, why are you surprised by that? She could be acting, but I don't know. Like I explained earlier, she could have lost somebody like Wanda did, and she's just trying to help her out as much as she can. And then we reach the climax of the episode, which is Wanda and Vision's argument. I really, really like this part because it's very realistic. I can name 20 couples off the top of my head that have problems like Wanda and Vision do, where one one person is keeping a secret from the other, they just don't want to deal with that problem. Like, for example, Vision tells Wanda that he talked to Norm without her mind control, and she says, "Can we talk about this later?" And he's like, "No, if we talk about this later, you're gonna change everything again, and I don't want that to happen." And she literally just tries to roll the credits so that the episode can end, right? But he's not having it. Vision is very adamant about wanting to know what's going on, and the fight gets so heated that they both start using their abilities. And Vision really has a good point here, where the problem with Wanda is that she's keeping secrets from him and she's deciding things for him. Like earlier in the episode, they say he had a will that decided that if he died, he didn't want anybody to resurrect him because then they would use his powers for bad or for evil or whatever. And Wanda went in violation of those rights. She is neglecting what her significant other wants for their happiness. Like she says, she's like, "I'm doing this for our happiness. Like, you're Billy and Tommy's dad and you're my husband. Like, isn't that enough?" And then he goes and he's like, "You know what? There's no other children." And she keeps deflecting and he keeps trying to bring up the issue, and they're not resolving it at all. She deflects and he brings up something else. She deflects and he brings something up. And that's very realistic to me, because I've been in arguments like that where I deflect, or I'm trying to get to the bottom of something and the other person I'm arguing with deflects. And it's very realistic how the argument never resolved itself. Like, they didn't talk it through enough for them to, like, apologize to one another and to actually be like, forgive one another for what they've done, because it's not resolved. They get cut off, and Vision is still very angry at her. Like, he thinks the doorbell is her doing, even though she tells him that she did not make the doorbell go. So I really like that fight. It's just very realistic, and it wasn't resolved. Okay, so now we gotta talk about the big, big, big reveal at the end of the episode. Who was at the door when Wanda opened it? So like we said earlier, Wanda can't bring people back from the dead. She can't even bring a dog back. But she's been thinking about Pietro a lot. How she lost him, like, episode 3, the big end of episode 3 happens because Monica mentions that Pietro died by Ultron's hands. She's still very unresolved about what happened all those years ago. And once again, she's thinking about Pietro. She's like, "Yeah, I was a twin too." And she talks to her children about how, like, death is final, how you can't change the past and all that stuff. Even the irony of it being that this whole situation was created so that she could be with Vision again. I did not think that Pietro was going to come back at all, to be honest. And when I mean Pietro, I mean Ultron Pietro that was introduced in the MCU. And when she mentioned that she couldn't bring back people from the dead, like, she's barely keeping Vision alive. As we see at the end of episode 4, she sees his dead corpse instead of his live body. I thought, like, that's a done deal. Pietro's never coming back. So I was like, who rang the doorbell? What's going on? And I go and I see, and they show the back of his head. I'm like, oh my God, it's Pietro. He's back. And then they show his face, and it's Evan Peters. It's Evan Peters, guys. This is the Quicksilver. This is Peter from the X-Men franchise. So a quick aside, Disney bought Fox in 2019. Fox had the ownership of the Fantastic Four and the X-Men characters. This includes Quicksilver. Somehow the MCU and Fox had the rights they both had the rights to Quicksilver, and they both used him. It's just that in the Age of Ultron, Pietro was killed off. Pietro, who is also Quicksilver in the MCU. When they bought them in 2019, people were like, oh, there's gonna be a multiverse maybe, or they're just gonna reboot the characters maybe. But they are talking about all this Doctor Strange, the new Doctor Strange movie is going to be called The Multiverse of Madness, and all these rumors and discussions about how the new Spider-Man movie is going to have villains from the Raimi trilogy, which was the trilogy of Spider-Man movies that had Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. People rightly assumed that the X-Men characters would come back maybe in some way, shape, or form. I did not think this at all. I was very speculative. I really like the X-Men series. I thought after the Fox deal is over, like, they're gonna recast them, or they're gonna reboot them, or they're gonna do something. I did not think that they would do this. This ending is just chef's kiss to be honest, because it comes full circle for me personally. Little story, little aside. The first X-Men movie I ever saw in theaters was X-Men Days of Future Past, and that's the movie where Quicksilver, Magneto's son, is introduced in that movie, and he was my favorite character in that movie. And I actually thought that movie was part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I didn't know back then that Fox had bought the rights to the X-Men and that Disney had bought the rights to all the other Marvel characters. So I didn't know that they couldn't interact with each other legally, and so I was really excited. I was like, "Man, are these people going to come back in Guardians of the Galaxy?" Because that was the movie that was coming out the next summer. I was really disappointed when I found out that Fox and Disney would never like allow a merger between their characters, you know? But then Disney just got a bunch of money and bought the entire studio. So by buying the studio, they got the rights to those characters. They got the rights to use Evan Peters' version of Quicksilver. I like Evan Peters' Quicksilver a little bit better than the MCU version. And so when I saw his face, I literally freaked out. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it's him. And a million things were going through my head. I was like, how is he here? How did he get here? What happened to Magneto? I'm like, do I have to watch Dark Phoenix now? Because I heard it was really bad. I don't know if he's in that one or not. I have watched X-Men Apocalypse, so I kind of know what happened between him and Magneto. But is he still the Quicksilver that I know? Or is he mind warped? Like, did Wanda unconsciously bring him from another dimension because she missed him so much? I think that Wanda missed her brother so much that she just broke a dimensional barrier to bring him to her life, you know? If she can't bring her brother back from the dead, why not bring another version of him into her life? And so he's like he has like a biker persona. He's like super funny. Like, he had like 3 lines maybe, and I already love him all over again. And I'm so happy. Personally, for me, this is like a culmination of me thinking that X-Men Days of Future Past was connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and now that theory is validated because Disney took billions of dollars and bought an entire studio. Now my theory is a reality. I can't believe that this happened, and it's situations like this that make me so happy that I am watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I thought it was over, it was done after Endgame, to be honest. I was like, TV shows, I was only excited about the Loki one, but then, like, I always liked Wanda and Vision and their relationship, but they never explored it really well, and now they are, and it's really making me happy that they're doing this. Like, all this potential is finally being utilized, especially the potential of a multiverse with the X-Men characters, maybe even Hugh Jackman reprising his role, maybe in the future. Like, now that I've seen this, I feel like anything is possible if you have $1 billion and you're Disney. Well, I'm going to rate this episode CW Flash meeting the DCEU Flash. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think in the comments about this new episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of new Pietro? Well, technically not new Pietro, but whatever. See you guys in the next one.